For my friend and yours. From Pose. Let's do it again. Dominique Jackson. Dominique Jackson.
I love you too. Hi. How is each and every one of you out there doing tonight? Good. I love you. Come here, give me a hug.
She loves you. I love her. She's like, oh my God, that's our sis.
You know, so I hear that you guys love Pose and everything like that, right? And that is so awesome. And in Pose, we get to see the juxtaposition that people in our community face. You have some people that can buy gold watches and buy cars, and then you have people who have nothing. You have people that are struggling to survive, struggling to just be themselves. And what happened back in the 80s when those people ended up on the piers and they started to vogue. And despite the fact that they were homeless, they were ostracized from their families, they found family within themselves and built ballroom. And I'm here to tell you today, I'm not going to tell you what year because then y'all going to think I'm old. And then I'm not going to be able to say words like lit. So,
Grandma say lit, she 82. Grandma be lit too. She be litty on her arthritis medication.
So, I will tell you guys this. My journey started back on a small island in Trinidad and Tobago. And I love my island, I love the food, but the people couldn't understand me. And I went through a lot. And for some of you, this may be a touchy subject, but I was facing rape and molestation at the hands of people that were supposed to protect and love me. And I tried to escape that. And I came to Owings Mills, Maryland, and I went to school. And I tried my best to get through school, but there was always something inside of me that just kept saying, you're not in your truth. There is more to you, but don't be scared. But at 17 years old, graduating from high school, what was I supposed to do but listen to my parents and go to college and try not to be effeminate? But I couldn't hide that. And eventually I left Maryland and I came to New York City. And I came to New York City and I was homeless. I used to go down to the piers and dance with the kids at night for the simple fact that we had no home to have. So anyone who had public assistance and was able to get an apartment, because back then, if you were trans, they said you were crazy, and they'd give you an apartment. And so what would happen is, because of the families that we formed, those of us who had no place to go would be able to go to that other person's house. And it would be 8 or 9 of us in a studio apartment. But what I found out was the happiness that I felt being around these people, being in a place where it was 8 or 9 of us. Oh my gosh, do not talk about using the bathroom. No, not with 8 or 9 people, and especially when you start hormones too. Whew, you need some privacy. But what we realize is we use that to help us grow. We use the love, and I'm not going to tell you we didn't have any arguments. There were some people that had fist fights, but I was too pretty for all that.
Okay. Girl, I walk face.
Thank you. Yes, it's Carter, darling, Carter. And so I used that to give me power. There were many days where I felt so defeated, that I didn't want to get up. I would walk outside and I would feel like I was still not in my truth. I couldn't have access to my hormones. The government said that because I didn't have a green card, I couldn't get much further in life. But I had faith.
Yes, say that. That's it.
And it was a faith that was supposed to be taken away from me, because when you identify as anything but heterosexual, people will tell you that God doesn't love you, or the people that you believe in don't love you. And I stand here to tell you today that no one can ever take your faith. You can never allow anyone to take that from you, because everything that you go through in life, I'm telling you, no matter how hard it is, there's a lesson to be learned. I had to fend and fight for my own green card, go to lawyers, when people in my family could have helped me.
Yes, God.
And they did not. Why? Because before them stood a woman, and they had the power. So a lot of times what happens is that people in power try to hold you back and hold you down. And sometimes we really need to lash out, but there are times to be strategic. You're going to have to get up and make it to those appointments that you don't feel that you can. I stood in offices with people calling me all kinds of names, and all I said was, you can call me any name you want to, but please provide me with the documentation that I can try to have to live a life.
Right.
I did not take no for an answer. I did not allow people to dictate to me who I was. And I'll tell you like this, I had those nights, even when I got into my own place. Even when I met a man that I thought loved me, I realized that I was still hidden. As a trans woman, I had to play this let me step back role. Be quiet. Don't go outside with your hair too done, because then they're gonna know. You know, don't speak this way. Don't talk that way. And that's not love. When you walk into the streets and people say all kinds of things about you, but show up on your doorstep at 1 or 2 a.m. asking for services.
Right.
That's not love.
Right. Right.
You know, I had to make sure that I was willing to stay in the fight. I gave up a couple times. I gave up. I didn't want to get up in the morning because the night was safe for me. No one really paid attention. But in the daytime, and especially on a Sunday morning, coming back from that club, and all those church women on the train, y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, everyone is so critical. But then I began to realize something. I did not need anyone's approval to be me.
Right.
And it was so hard for me to get there. It took me years. And not only did I not need their approval, what I did not need was for them to keep looking at me and me believing the things that they said I was. So I had to move forward. So that was me fighting through hurdles. And every time I thought I got to a certain point and I got something that was going to move me forward, here came another hurdle. The mountain got higher. You know, the bend wasn't no longer a bend, it was a whole curve.
Right.
So what I had to do, I had to go around that curve. I did it crying at night. I did it with fear in my heart at times. But something, I had an inner voice. And I know each and every one of you here has that inner voice. That voice that propels you forward. That voice that tells you to lead with kindness, even in the face of adversity. That voice that tells you, I don't have to be like the people that are trying to hurt me, because they're probably hurt themselves.
They try to call you schizophrenic for that.
Well,
The world.
honey, they have so many terms for so many things, but when you look in the mirror, you know who you are.
Period.
Exactly. And when I looked in my mirror and said, I love you, and I give you the approval to be you, I was happy. Whether it was You know, and I say to whether you're a young mother, whether you're gay, you're straight, you are TG, NC, NB, no matter what you are, I mean, it's about us transgender, gender non-conforming, non-binary, right? We all have a right to identify as who we are. And if you can't find it on the scale, let's find it, okay? But in a perfect world, we wouldn't need to categorize something as private as our sexuality. It is the fear that people have of us that they want us to have to say, well, oh, hi, I'm buying groceries, by the way, I'm gay. Hey, can you pump my gas? I'm a trans woman. We have to get to a point where we realize that, yes, there was a fight for civil rights, but now we have to fight for human rights. And we're all human, and as long as your life is bringing no physical harm to anyone else, you should and must be able to live it. And do not ask for permission to live your life. Live it. There you go, baby. Ah, okay. Yeah, so I leave you with this today. Each and every one of you in here seems to be a very strong, determined person, right? In your truth. Knowing who you are or on your way to discovering your truth. The journey is not going to be easy. Don't think about these people out here who you think that they just rose to fame like that. Some people had to have a silver spoon in their mouth, born with it. And some of us had to fight from the bottom of the barrel to get to where we need to be. But what that has taught me is appreciation for myself, my community, and appreciation for all of the kids that I know every day do not wake up and have what America calls a normal life. Right? We are the ones that make America. We are the ones that show what it is to survive, what it is to be determined to live. We are talented. Why do you think every time someone is too fashionable, they say, oh, they must be gay? Right? It's like, wait a second. If you ain't dipping and dabbing in something, then you can't dress, right? It's because we're creative. We've always been creative. And understand your history. Understand where ballroom came from. Understand how these women came about and would use hot glue to put clothes together. And use makeup. Nestle Quick? We did not add milk, honey. And when I found that out, I understood what resilience was.
We just keep rising.
You have to keep rising. This is what it's about. I thank y'all for supporting and watching Pose. I really do. We are coming back. We are coming back for season 2. But we do have a lot of work to do. There's going to be a lot that we are going to touch on. Because this has to be authentic, right? It's not about showing people how trans women transition, but about showing them how we live in our truth, okay? It's about us understanding and showing people that they could have done much more during this HIV and AIDS pandemic, during homophobic violence and transphobic violence. How many of our sisters and brothers have died? How many times do we have to sit around and look at our Facebook feed? The most recent, and I'll end with this, the most recent heartbreak I had was to watch a woman that I knew lived in her truth unapologetically. Her life came to an end and she was sent home, but her family took her and buried her in the form that they believed she was supposed to be. They did not allow any of her friends of her 30-something year life to be a part of that. We face that all the time. the more visible we are, and I tell you this, if you can be visible and safe, do it. If you can come out and be safe, do it. But do not come out if you do not feel like you will be safe. You must have support. As friends, support each other. I'm not saying y'all not gonna have some tiffs and riffs and y'all gonna walk out that door when y'all getting ready to hit the club and somebody look better than the other one and y'all like, oh, shh, I'm gonna cut her dress. But friendship, especially when we are disenfranchised, when we face prejudice, when we face hatred, when we face an administration that is telling us that we should not exist, that is when people like myself have to step forward, right? It is not about threatening people to tell them, don't talk about me, because who I am is beautiful. Who you are is beautiful. Your truth is not an abomination. We do not have to be afraid of each other. We have to learn to lend each other a helping hand every time we can.
Yes.
And so with that, I love y'all.
Love you.
I hope you have a great time. Thank you so much for watching and enjoying the show. And please continue. I love you. I just want to tell you that. Come here, give me a hug.
You gotta bust a dip. Papa beat somebody. You gotta Love in the flesh.
I tell y'all, be strong, be determined, persevere. Lead with kindness. Thank you.